There are a few definitions into the term, depending on priorities and different perspectives. And the way we look at traceability is from a stakeholder quality perspective, which means in a supply chain, there can be multiple buyers. A product's custody changes from one stakeholder to another until it gets into the hands of the end consumer. So there are a lot of buyers in this chain, and each buyer has uh, interest on specific areas on the product's quality. So how we define traceability is the ability for any buyer to have a clear and transparent view of all the aspects of the product. That level of transparency. So in this way, we can look at traceability as a quality attribute of a product. Traceability is a part of your quality. So if a supply chain can deliver a product with a very good level of authentic traceability, that adds a lot of quality into the product itself. It's not something something separate or supplementary to the product. This differs from the traditional view on traceability, where traceability is seen as sort of an obligation on reporting to your buyers or just reporting to authorities regarding certain requirements. But this definition aligns with stakeholder interest as a quality aspect associated with the product.
So when you talk about agriculture and agricultural products, a product before it comes to a consumer goes through many stages. So in agriculture, it goes through seeding, then it goes through plantation where there could be fertilizers and pesticides being used. Then it goes through harvesting, then it will go through a transportation, then it comes to a warehouse to get packaged, where again there will be some level of maybe waxing or again ways of packaging. Maybe there are pesticides being used based on what it is and so on. So up until it comes to the consumer, agriculture product goes through many stages. And for a business as well as for the end consumer, this traceability will tell exactly what happened to this product from the farm to fork. That's why traceability is very important when it comes to agriculture. Also because agricultural products, as you know, gets exported quite a lot around the world. And Sri Lanka is primarily one of our main exports is agriculture. So traceability for agriculture becomes very important because of this main reason of agricultural products going through many stages.
Traceability can be practiced either manually or digitally. And of course, a large fraction of supply chains still use manual traceability. And when you digitize it, you get few obvious advantages of digitizing or digital transformation. Things like high efficiency. Manual processes less efficient and error prone. When you digitize things, you can do things faster, improve people's productivity and so on. But in addition to these obvious advantages, there are few specific advantages of digitizing traceability. Particularly when it comes to the capability of capturing the complexity. Today's supply chains are extremely complex. Even the short supply chains are complex. They deal with a lot of traceability data, a lot of stages, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of master data, a lot of artifacts, and transactions, and so on. If you don't have a system, let's say either manual or digital, if your system is not capable of absorbing this level of complexity, what naturally happens is you end up compromising capturing some of the vital data, which can be of real value uh, later in the supply chain. And as we have observed with most of our customers and prospect customers, this is the case with almost all manual traceability practices. Because of the complexity, uh, you ultimately compromise your quality of data. I would say the main advantage of going digital with traceability is uh, the ability to capture that entire spectrum of aspects that you really want to cover to make to deliver that value uh, to show that transparency to all stakeholders, satisfying everyone's different needs. But not all digital platforms are capable of capturing this level of complexity. So just digitizing traceability might not get you there. But you should choose a traceability tool uh, which which is very flexible and which has a rich enough model which can absorb the entire data complexity of your supply chain.
So for exporters, mainly any export business maintain traceability data in some form. It could be paper-based or in general systems and so on. What's important when you are exporting for most exporters is that when you are exporting your product to another country, there are regulatory regulations that you are supposed to abide by of that particular country that you're exporting to. And also there are certain certifications that you may need to obtain that you have to apply for. So for these purposes, businesses maintain this traceability information. The biggest advantage for businesses as soon as they have digitized traceability is that it makes it easier for them to comply by these regulations by those exporting countries. So they're supposed to provide these data in audits. And then when you're applying for certification, again, it makes it easier for them to compile this data because it's already digitized. But as Dilipa mentioned, it has to be its advantages if it's in such a tool that allows you to extract that easily and compile it for the purpose for these purposes, such as for audits, complying with regulations and the certifications and so on, that businesses already do. So currently, any business that don't have digitized traceability will have to spend a lot of time and energy and money in order to do this process. So it makes it so much easier, faster, and cost effective. The other aspect of advantage of having digitized traceability is all these data that these exporters have, they are able to use this to bring them better value in the market, in the global market, because they can use this traceability data to convert it to traceability information that allows them to tell this product story and journey to their B2B or B2C customers. So it makes using a digitized traceability platform so much more beneficial for exporters rather than abiding to conventional methods. products. The factors that would determine the need for a digital traceability system for an exporter is, of course, when you're exporting, as I mentioned previously, you have to abide by certain guidelines and regulations of the country that you're exporting to. So having a digitized traceability in your supply chain will enable you to do that easily and much faster, and also with more transparency and clarity, which can also create more trust in the country that you're exporting your product to. The other aspect of it is that when you are exporting, having digitized traceability, as I mentioned, will allow most businesses that's exporting as B2B, allow them to transfer that traceability data to their B2B buyers, the importer, which will allow them better opportunities to sell it to their B2C customers. And also it allows businesses to breach into new markets much easily, because they already have this traceability data that is digitized and easily available for them to be able to apply into getting into new markets. Traceability systems come at different costs, so it is depending on what kind of value they're adding to the business, features and benefits that they have, and so on. Generally, an enterprise digital traceability system would be quite costly, and that's possibly one of the reasons that most businesses think twice before they implement one, because they are because of the cost, and they need to see the value they are going to generate out of it. But the future of especially in agriculture products, is that digital traceability will be a must in the future, because most countries will request for certain digital traceability to be implemented in the businesses that they're exporting from. So, in terms of cost, I can mention for Tracified. What we've tried to do with Tracified is have a model where we serve business customers, that is enterprises, in two tiers. So we have a one-time implementation fee that would generally cost around $25,000. And then it's a subscription, a monthly subscription model. Having said this, by working with businesses for some time, we have realized that there are lots of SMEs who want to export or want to get into the market and would like to have this digital traceability implemented in their businesses. And as I said, it will become a standard in the future, so they must get into it. So they may not be able to afford a big enterprise solution as such. So having that in mind, we are also considering or in the process of launching an easier entrant model, such as a SaaS solution, where businesses can easily, especially SMEs, can easily get into digitizing their traceability to their business at a very low cost, starting at $45 a month.
Yeah, from our experience so far, what we have seen is that depends a lot on the customer demography and the type of the product that they are buying. And one segment which is clearly ready to pay a premium for traceability is the customers that have a special interest in verifying some aspect about the product that they are buying. I can give you a few examples. In food, let's say a mother buying food for her small kid will have a special interest on the safety aspect of the food uh, than adult food. Or someone with allergies might have a special interest in verifying that the food he or she is eating doesn't have certain ingredients in them, uh, uh, because that can be life-threatening otherwise for them. So from a different domain, a Japanese consumer buying a precious gemstone from Sri Lanka through e-commerce, a high-end gemstone, will be interested in verifying the fact that this is a gemstone that actually originated in Ratnapura in Sri Lanka and not something sourced from somewhere like Madagascar. So this segment we have recognized that is clearly ready to pay a premium for good high quality traceability. But our vision actually goes beyond this obvious segment to make traceability a practice for the usual consumer as well, by making it a way for them uh, to make economic benefit, basically incentivizing consumers to take part in contributing to upstream traceability. For example, let's say as a consumer, if you genuinely review products for their various aspects, and if you do it for a long time, then you might acquire a certain wealth in the traceability ecosystem, which can be converted into cryptocurrency, which you can use to buy other items, something like that. So this is something which is possible with the blockchain. So with this, we hope that we can convert traceability into a widespread practice, where uh, a large fraction of global consumers will be ready to pay for Tracified for different kinds of benefits. The first thing is the life cycle depends on the type of supply chain. We categorize supply chains into three broad classes. One is the integrated supply chain, where one powerful player more or less owns the entire supply chain end to end. Supply chains of this kind are easier to be converted in terms of digital traceability. There are two other classes of supply chains. One we called independent supply chains, where several stakeholders work together to produce the end product, but they are pretty much independent of each other and they don't have long-term relationships as well. So mostly transactional relationships occur between them. And the third type is interdependent supply chain, where again you have a number of stakeholders involved, but with a long-standing relationship between each other. So the first factor that determines the life cycle of a digital traceability system is the type of supply chain that you are in. But I will not try to, go into long details. I will try to summarize the life cycle, maybe for the simplest supply chain, which is the integrated one, where you first have to identify the stakeholder or the one player that can promote the traceability initiative throughout the supply chain. In an integrated supply chain, this is not very difficult. This can be the company that owns the end consumer, or a very powerful manufacturer, or something of that sort. And this player we call the traceability advocate. And then with this player, we need to start looking into how mature the batch tracking process of the entire supply chain is. There are certain supply chains that do this process very well, even with a manual process, or there are supply chains that have absolutely no idea about tracking batches. If you are unable to track your batches, track the movements, transformations, and conversions of your batches, then it's almost impossible to implement a traceability system on top of it. So one of the first steps is, if the supply chain doesn't have a established batch tracking process, it has to be implemented. That business process has to be implemented first before deploying the digital platform. And as next steps, we can identify what are the different stages of the supply chain. For instance, in an agri supply chain, seeding might be one stage, plantation the next stage, harvesting comes next, and so on. And then for each stage, we need to recognize who are the people involved in it. And then what are the data points that we need to track. And after this exercise, we also need to identify master data that would have a cross-cutting effect on the entire supply chain. Master data is basically the data that do not change very often in the supply chain. So that is the next step. So after that, of course, it is possible to abstract out this information into a digital model and deploy some kind of a basic digital traceability system within the supply chain, but maybe covering only the tech-savvy stakeholders first as a trial run, let's say, and run it for a while and see what are the practical difficulties, what are the things that we have overlooked, and so on. And then the traceability system can be extended to other stakeholders progressively while communicating the benefits of the traceability system to them, trying to get their buy-in also through leadership. So that is in a very brief form the life cycle of a digital traceability system.
So, like Dilip mentioned previously, so consumer can benefit from the traceability data that the business is capturing throughout that life cycle, up until it reaches that consumer. Then the product traceability information will give the consumer the information they may be looking for, depending on their interest levels. For example, in Tracified for agricultural products, we show traceability information on 4 quadrants, which is called freshness, safety, sustainability, and community. So if you go to freshness quadrant, the consumer can find out how fresh is this product. When was it plucked? When was it packed? And so on. When it comes to safety quadrant, the consumer can find out how safe is this product, what sort of certifications has it gone through, and also are these certifications verifiable, as in are they valid certifications at the time that it was this product that I have purchased has gone through this life cycle. Then sustainability practices, if the consumer is interested about understanding what sort of sustainability practices that business has implemented, such as composting, what kind of water usage are they using? Are they using well water, rainwater, and so on? What kind of practices is this business having in place when they are doing this process? And community. So most consumers, especially in the developed world, prefer to know about what kind of community involvement was there, or farmers. Are these farmers who are producing these products getting a value back to them by me purchasing this product? So that community involvement. So we are able to show that community involvement to say, did this product that you purchased came from a female farmer in Badulla area in Sri Lanka, and so on. How many children would have gone to school as a result of you purchasing this product, and so on. So giving that feeling and aspect of the community involvement in terms of how this product was manufactured, and so on. So with Tracified, we try to go a step further than that. We not only talk about these traceability informations that the consumer might be interested in, but we also want to show the consumer the journey of the product. What kind of places has this product in terms of a map has passed through until it reached you, and the story of the product with geocoded images so that the consumer can appreciate the people involved, the work involved, the effort put to produce that, for that journey that it went through for it to reach that consumer. And one of the things that we identified also when we were coming up with the platform, Tracified as a platform, was also allowing the consumer to be a part of this supply chain, because the consumer is a very important part of this life cycle. As such, we've introduced a consumer the ability to rate and comment about that product that can carry throughout that traceability supply chain. So these are the kind of value traceability can give a consumer, so the consumer can get something out of it that's relevant to them, as well as being able to feedback their experience, because they are the ultimate use of the product, so that it can carry throughout that supply chain to help the businesses and all of the stakeholders involved in creating that product. So Tracified is a spin-off from 99X technology. So when we were working on a project in 99X, we came up with this idea of, we got to know more about traceability and came up with this idea of the importance of traceability. And it got us into researching more on traceability, but not just traceability, digital traceability, as well as traceability for e-commerce. Because the world was moving towards e-commerce, and a lot of emerging markets, consumers in emerging markets were purchasing their food products online. And there was no way for them to find out the freshness of the product, the quality of the product, and so on, because on e-commerce, unlike retail, you have no opportunity to touch or smell or feel before you purchase. So we soon realized that this was a very important area to touch on when it comes to traceability. And also, and there was a consumer base, an emerging consumer base that was very interested about traceability information. So this got us thinking and got us into researching about traceability and digital traceability. And when we formalized this idea of Tracified and how to implement this, and we looked at technology, because as you know, 99X is a technology company, and when we looked at technology, we identified that blockchain was a really good technology, although it was mainly known for financial sector, it had the characteristics that we were looking for to implement traceability for a supply chain. And that was the inception of it. So it came as an idea which got developed over time. And then we were able to come up with Tracified, the product. So since then, Tracified has come a long way, and we were able to, in the first year of, we launched Tracified in 2017. We were fortunate enough to be recognized by MBQSA as the best gold award in MBQSA for retail and commerce sector, which was a very proud moment for us. And the year following that, in 2018, we did our first international, we took Tracified our first international event in Norway for Oslo Innovation Week in 2018, where we also were recognized by the Founder Institute, and we were given a full scholarship by the Founder Institute in Norway. And the same year, we were again recognized in Business and Commerce category at East Swabimani Awards. And later in 2019, we were also recognized and was selected for the spiralation cohort by ICTU. So we were very fortunate to have had these validations and recognitions and awards locally and internationally to help us validate this idea and concept and take us through this journey that we started.
First, I think we are different because we offer our solution on top of blockchain, which is a modern technology that can ensure authenticity of information entered, which is one of the key concerns with traceability. A supply chain can have perfect traceability, but if it is not true, then the whole value of that is lost for the consumer and most other stakeholders. So that is number one point. There are a few other companies in the global context that offer blockchain-based traceability, but we differ in few areas. First, we offer our solution on a public blockchain, not a private blockchain. So all our proofs and the blockchain-based signatures are in public blockchain and not in private blockchain, like most of the competition is using. The limitation of private blockchain is basically the user has to depend on the trustworthiness of one company or a group of companies. But if you can put your data in public blockchain, then basically you don't have to depend on the trust of anyone. Basically, you are in a trustless setup. But then again, when you opt to the public blockchain, you're confronted with two big problems. The first one is the public blockchain is highly expensive and slow. But on the other, and in parallel, it's not environment friendly as well. Because mining, which is a practice used by most public blockchains, consumes a huge amount of energy. Some blockchains consume energy as big as one country would consume. But the public blockchain we are using is an unmined blockchain. So it is a much environment friendly blockchain than most other blockchains. Plus, it's much faster and cheaper So because of that, we are able to offer affordable solution still on public blockchain. So that is the first area where we distinguish our solution. And number two is just applying blockchain doesn't actually solve the traceability problem, because in blockchain usually everything is a computer driven autonomy, but you can't do that in supply chains. Supply chains are driven by uh, different people, maybe in different countries, with different value systems, different goals, different cultures, and different levels of tech competency, and so on. So there are a lot of complexities. You can't absorb all of these into one equation and put it into a computer-driven autonomy like that. So because of that, our solution, although it is based on blockchain, it can coexist with the existing relationship structures that are there in the supply chains, and we put a lot of weight into the human factor when we design our platform, and also we provide a very high level of customer support. That human touch is very important, and thorough training, in-person training, both physical and online. So I think those are the areas that we differ from the rest of the competition.
So with Sarakata, as I mentioned previously, is a business that's sourcing their agricultural products from other farmers, mainly smallholder farmers, and then processing it and packaging it, and then selling it either via e-commerce or exporting it to other countries. So in terms of implementing traceability, there were lots of hurdles, because traceability is not known or not a known concept in Sri Lanka, especially when you go to the farmer levels. So we went to those ground root levels to understand how the farmers work in their farms, what kind of facilities they've got to be able to be a part of a digital traceability system in that supply chain. And also what are the limitations, knowledge barriers, and so on that's there before we can implement a traceability solution. So all these things were considered when we configured and our Tracified platform when we before we implemented it to Sarakata. So a similar approach is needed for an agricultural business when we are implementing traceability, because every business is different. People involved in the business comes from different backgrounds, different education levels, and so on, and processes could be different as well. Some of the things that we considered when we developed Tracified that is more aligned to agriculture is features such as farms where they don't have internet access. How are they able to enter data and then connect it to the cloud if they don't have internet access? So building features such as allowing them to enter but then sync when they come to a place where they have internet. Then there are certain farms in Sri Lanka and of course in other countries also, where people can't go or cover that farm by foot. They may be able to just get the geo coordinates of it, or maybe trace it on a map and so on. So allowing the system to have these features that make it easy for an agriculture business to capture as much data as possible that is relevant and important in the supply chain. So, and also being able to have a platform that is multilingual, so that those who are at the grassroots levels, the farmers, the collectors, the field officers, those who use native languages can enter the data through an app that offers native language, and then for the admins to be able to view this and be able to tag this entire traceability data into that final product. So with Sarakita, we did this entire process, and working with Sarakita helped us also, and all the other clients, pilot clients we worked with, helped us fine tune the product to help other businesses, similar businesses in agriculture, to be able to implement traceability much easily.
So with our blockchain, we have put an enormous amount of time to research and innovate techniques to keep it flexible while still making the blockchain-based integrity. So this is one of our clear comparative advantages. And another one is our trust network, where when looking at information of the product that you're going to buy, one can not only see the information, but also can see what is the level of credibility of the people who entered that information. It can be data coming from the ground workforce, or it might be coming from domain experts as formulas or rules, or maybe expert vetting on a certain product. So whatever the type of the person involved, you can see the degree of reliability of the person. We do this based on the public key infrastructure, which is a technology that has been there for decades, and we couple it with the blockchain. And of course, Tracified is one of the very few traceability solutions that offer a platform for e-commerce business, because particularly in e-commerce, the consumer doesn't get the opportunity to touch and feel a product. So it's very important to give that assurance to the consumer before making the purchase on what he will be receiving is what he actually expected after looking at it from a web shop. So Tracified as a platform is capable of handling the specific challenges that are associated with e-commerce, the peculiarities that you will not find with brick and mortar business. Blockchain is the technology behind Bitcoin, which empowers digital money, and the innovation Bitcoin brought up in 2009 is the ability for people to transact with a digital form of money without depending on any central authority, like a nation state, like we do with our fiat currency. So it's a great innovation in the sense that it has solved a problem humanity has been facing for many centuries, the issue of trust. So then people started thinking, if you can use this technology to build trust for money, then using the same technology, you can build trust for anything else as well. Then a lot of other domains also started looking at blockchain as a new way of building up trust between the stakeholders in an ecosystem delivering a certain value. So that is basically the blockchain as a technology and the core value that the blockchain can deliver. And to sum it up into a couple of words, some people call blockchain as the industrialization of trust. Traceability has been there for many decades or even centuries, especially for the past few decades, where it was governed by mostly by regulations. But there are clear problems associated with traceability. The traditional traceability is being practiced as an obligation, where each supply chain related company puts some data into a piece of paper or into a computer just to satisfy the authorities, just as an obligation. Doing that, they don't really give the required level of attention to the quality of that information, and sometimes this information is tampered intentionally for economic gain. In almost all parts of the world, there have been many hundreds of cases where supply chain fraud has been detected, even with supply chains that had the perfect traceability, perfect traditional traceability. So this thing was an eye-opener, and it raised the question of the real use of traceability. Because if it is just going to be a practice, just wasting the taxpayer money paid for maintaining the regulatory processes, while it actually doesn't deliver much value to the consumer, to the people, then why is traceability there for in first place? And this is where the blockchain can really make a difference, because the core value that the blockchain offers is trust, by ensuring that information is not tampered, not only in the basic sense, but also the basic data in the raw data form, but also in the interpretation of raw data. The blockchain can help in both aspects. So blockchain brings in a new hope to supply chains, the authentic supply chains, to showcase the true quality of their products and stand up from the crowd. And there's another value that blockchain can actually bring into traceability as well, which is an unexplored area yet, which is transforming traceability from a cost stream into a revenue stream. Usually, traceability is just a cost to a business. You don't make any money out of it. But blockchain can come up with very creative business models with economic incentives for all stakeholders in a supply chain who contribute authentic information to the traceability ledger that ultimately ends up helping a lot of other stakeholders. So this is what with Tracified, this is what we are, what we hope to explore with our upcoming NFT platforms. NFT is a very new blockchain-based technology now gaining a lot of attention. For example, we are exploring the possibility of any supply chain stakeholder, after contributing good enough amount of authentic information to the supply chain, putting it all up into a couple of NFTs and selling it in NFT marketplace for the interested parties to purchase. So this is also a key difference than that the blockchain carries the potential to bring into the domain of traceability. Yeah, I think in answering that, we can think as a country, what are our challenges today in international business? Where are competitors from, and what are our threats and challenges? And if blockchain can sort of give us an edge there. In my understanding, most of our competitors for our exports are from other Asian countries where they use mass workforces in huge factories and uh, very high degree of efficiency, which is a challenge for a country like Sri Lanka to match. And Sri Lanka, on the other hand, is not really known for, I mean, mass workforces or huge factories, and that is not what Sri Lanka is known for. But Sri Lanka is known for boutique industries, the small industries, small scale industries where you produce things with individual care. You add a lot of traditional value into it and practice sustainable practices, uh, and uh, and and try to and ensure that everyone involved gets a fair share for their contribution. The labor laws in Sri Lanka are pretty strong, and if we can capitalize on this aspect, we can use blockchain to just showcase and show these facts to the world, uh, uh, and distinguish our products from the mass market. And that's one area blockchain can help us in. And this will, I think, apply for areas like exports, as well as vastly different industries like tourism as well, I think. And on the other hand, I think we stand up with a good chance of uh, uh, counterfeit combating with blockchain technology. For instance, if we take industry like cinnamon, there are a lot of counterfeits in the international market under the name Ceylon cinnamon, uh, uh, coming from other Asian countries. If we can use blockchain technology to prove the origin of cinnamon, we can try to recapture this lost segment of the market due to these counterfeits. And same goes with gemstones as well. I think this example I brought in earlier also. Uh, uh, for example, the Sri Lankan colored stones have a very good international market. But then there's, of course, competition from the counterfeits. If we can again do some kind of a quality verification, proof of origin, that kind of a authenticity check with the blockchain, that can give us a huge advantage as a country.